Did the ancient Egyptians know something that we don't? Something about the end of times? Well, I think they did. The more I learn about ancient Egypt, the more I am stunned by how accurate their predictions have been. So much so that it makes me wonder if they were visited by extraterrestrials, who gave them advanced knowledge about the planet's history. When I say this, many people think that I am referring to Eric von Daniken's theories in his book, Chariots of the Gods. But the truth is that I believe there are valid reasons to suppose that the Egyptians knew more than we do. Remember the Sphinx? A battle of good against evil? A confrontation between two opposing forces that could spell doom for our world? This collection of ancient Egyptian religious texts was written over a span of several centuries and contains a wealth of information about their beliefs and rituals surrounding death and the afterlife. One particular story from the book that stands out is the battle between the sun god Ra and the serpent of chaos, Apophis. Every night Apophis would rise and attempt to devour the sun, plunging the world into darkness. However, every morning Ra would defeat Apophis and bring light back to the world. Take, for example, the destruction of mankind narrative. In this myth, the gods are angry with humanity because they have become too powerful and have started to rebel against the divine order. They believe that the gods used the stars and planets to communicate with humans, and that certain astronomical events were omens of important events on Earth. For example, they believed that eclipses were caused by the demon Apep devouring the sun or moon, and that star shifts and comets foretold the death of pharaohs or other important figures. According to legend, Ramses was told by his advisors that an eclipse of the sun was imminent. But he dismissed their concerns, believing that nothing could harm him as long as he kept the divine order in balance. However, when the eclipse occurred, Ramses realized that he had been wrong and took steps to appease the gods and prevent further disasters. This belief in the connection between the heavens and earth led the Egyptians to keep meticulous records of celestial events, which are still studied by astronomers today. The Sphinx, with its enigmatic smile and body of a lion, is believed by some to hold secrets about the future of humanity. Some believe that the Sphinx is a physical manifestation of the god Horus, and its body bears witness to events that have already happened, including the destruction of Atlantis and the Great Flood. According to these beliefs, the Sphinx's smile represents its knowledge of these events, and its unwavering gaze towards the east is said to signify its anticipation of a third major global catastrophe that is yet to come. Some believe that Thoth's records were kept in the Hall of Truth, where the scales of justice were used to weigh the heart of the deceased against the feather of truth. These ancient structures are filled with hieroglyphics and carvings that tell stories of the gods and their interactions with humans. Many of these carvings depict scenes of war and conflict, but they also show how the gods intervene in human affairs to protect their followers and punish their enemies. These stories serve as reminders of the Egyptians' belief in the importance of maintaining cosmic balance and staying in tune with the divine order. If the heart was found to be pure, the person was allowed to enter the afterlife. However, it's important to remember that to the ancient Egyptians, these stories were deeply meaningful and served as a framework for understanding their place in the universe. By exploring these stories, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the rich culture and beliefs of ancient Egypt and learn more about ourselves in the process. The feather of truth could be seen as a symbol of enlightenment and explain natural phenomena. Or were they prophetic warnings about a final war that will determine the fate of the world? I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. And those who are deemed worthy of entering the afterlife are those who have achieved a state of spiritual purity and wisdom. But if it was found to be impure, the person was condemned to be devoured by the goddess of the underworld, Mit. As a punishment, the gods send a great flood to wipe out all life on earth. But they regret doing so and make a promise never to destroy the world again. Could they be seen as a metaphor for a final judgment or a reckoning that awaits all of humanity? Just as the Egyptians believed that their pharaohs were both human and divine, perhaps they saw the end of days as a time when humanity would be judged by a higher power. The Hall of Truth could then be seen as the place where the fate of the world would be decided, and the scales of justice, tipped by the feather of truth, could symbolize the delicate balance between good and evil that exists in the universe. When the scales tip in favor of good, it could signify the triumph of light over darkness, order over chaos, and the dawn of a new age. This story is similar to the biblical story of Noah's Ark and the Great Flood. but it predates the biblical account by thousands of years. This story is a metaphor for the eternal struggle between good and evil. But could it be more than just a simple myth? Or could they be more than that? Could they be prophetic warnings of a final war that will take place at the end of days? We'll also try to figure out whether these writings tell us that the end of days is nigh. Welcome to my channel. For example, the Temple of Karnak features a series of reliefs depicting the two figures locked in combat. The list includes a column detailing the dates of important astronomical events, such as the heliacal rising of Sirius, which marked the beginning of the annual flooding of the Nile River. This preoccupation with astrology and celestial events reflects the Egyptians' belief that the gods were intimately involved in the affairs of mortals. They believed that the gods used the stars and planets to send messages to humans, and that understanding these messages was essential to maintaining the balance of the universe. These images are not just meant to be aesthetically pleasing, but also served as a reminder of the importance of good triumphing over evil. They serve as a symbol of the balance between order and chaos that the Egyptians believed was necessary for the proper functioning of the universe. It is believed that it was built 4,500 years ago. Yet its prediction about the year 2020 being the beginning of a new era has come true. An evil, a war that will determine the fate of the world. Some believe that this war has already begun, that the battle between light and darkness is playing out in the conflicts and struggles that we see around us every day. The prophecy alludes to a time of national collapse, saying that Egypt will be overrun by foreigners, that only one Egyptian man will survive. She is often depicted as a lioness, either as a fearsome monster or as a benevolent goddess. In one version of the myth, she nearly wipes out all of humanity because of their wickedness. Only a small group of people are saved, and they are instructed to build a temple in her honor. Could this myth be a reference to a past event, where a devastating plague or natural disaster wiped out most of the population of ancient Egypt? Or could it be a warning of a similar catastrophe that lies ahead for the whole human race? He will then set out to rebuild his nation, but he will die before seeing any success. It is only after he has passed on that his descendants will restore Egypt to its former glory. In today's video, we will be looking at various ancient Egyptian texts which allude to a great war that will take place in the future. However, there is another interpretation. Could this be a premonition of an even greater disaster? A harbinger of an apocalyptic event that will befall not just Egypt, but the whole world? Let's start with the Prophecy of Neferti. This prophecy was written on the wall of a tomb in the Valley of the Kings during the Middle Kingdom, around 3,000 years ago. Now, some have interpreted this prophecy literally, claiming that it refers to a literal destruction of Egypt by a foreign power, while others see it as a metaphor for the decline and eventual rebirth of the Egyptian Empire. Moving on, let's look at the Book of the Dead. The battle between Ra and Apophis is often depicted in art and architecture throughout ancient Egypt. But what does this mean for us today? Could this ancient battle be a premonition of a final confrontation between good next? Let's talk about the myth of Sekhmet. There are other stories in Egyptian mythology that allude to the idea that the gods almost destroyed the world. Could these myths be simply allegorical tales, stories designed to teach moral lessons and explain natural phenomena? Egyptian astrology also played a significant role in their understanding of the world. One such record is the Turin King List, a papyrus document from the 13th century BC that lists the names of Egyptian kings and the length of their reigns. Another example of Egyptian astrology in action is the story of Pharaoh Ramesses II. The god Thoth was particularly associated with astrology and was said to be responsible for recording the deeds of humans in order to determine their fate in the afterlife. However, the Hall of Truth and the weighing of the heart ritual may have had a deeper meaning. Another possible interpretation is that the Hall of Truth and the weighing of the heart represent the process of spiritual evolution that all human beings go through. Some believe that the Sphinx and the pyramids contain encoded warnings about future global catastrophes. Temples in Luxor and Karnak depict global conflict and divine intervention through symbolic depictions of cosmic battles. When we look at these ancient myths and legends, it's easy to get lost in the fantastical tales of gods and monsters. So the question is, were these myths simply allegorical stories designed to teach moral lessons? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more fascinating content. Thank you for watching.